at the same time that they not just cut the cord on any facility that does have problems, especially if those workers are organizing there, but that they actually like work to improve those conditions. That's what they've said that they will do. It's, you know, it's dubious at this point, and somebody has to hold them to it. That's our goal. That's the goal of the Our Walmart campaign, of the workers who are in the stores as well. There are workers in, you know, in other parts of the country, gust workers in Louisiana who went on strike a few months ago. There's workers in other parts of the world who have been fighting in Bangladesh, other places that have been trying to connect up the dots about who is responsible for these things. And companies like Walmart are, again, the ones that are setting these standards. There's nobody who can really, you know, no one entity, let alone, you know, even the United States government can hold them to something, but the workers and consumers can. And so that's our long-term goal. And it's, you know, I think that's the only way you can really comprehensively take on that issue.
I would just add that I think the janitorial and security guard industry are two industries that are obviously heavily subcontracted in the private sector that through unions have been able to lift up standards in those places, but definitely there's a lot of work to be done in the subcontracting and temp agency industries.
Good question. Carlos, did you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Amador. I guess the question I wanted to bring up was in regards to like the use of media and specifically social media. I think within the immigrant youth movement, that's been one of the biggest assets and tools that we've used nationally. And then it makes me think of the Pizza Palermo campaign going on in Wisconsin, and how I've been able to like get updates and stuff of what's happening through social media. But I'm wondering if through the car wash campaign, which I mean they're close by to where I work at, so I'm often updated. But especially with the warehouse workers or any other local campaigns that are really not that visible nationally, but using social media possibly for to enhance or lift up our campaign. So I don't know if that's one of the tools that have been used or how's that working for you all?
I think with car wash workers, we wouldn't be able to use it effectively like how we use it with Dreamers to organize ourselves, because the workers won't necessarily, and some have Facebooks though, let me just say that too, and they do, and they use them. But that wouldn't be the way we reach, but we do use it for our allies, and we do use it to just get the word out. And it has been, you know, I think there's levels like successes, and I think most recently with us specifically, we've used it in promoting the car washes that are union car washes. And I think we're still learning, because now there's like a whole other aspect of our work that we're like, now we have to think about now, how do we promote and support the union car washes, because now we have 3. So I think we do use it. It's in a different way, and we're still evolving in that direction. So, but it's a tool that we do think about. And just as a little shout out to our organizer Rosemary Molina, which is helping, you know, organize the boycott with Palermo. You know, she works with the Clean Car Wash campaign, and so she's really putting to use a lot of the stuff that locally works, and now in a context that is much broader.
Yeah, so I think a similar situation. We have a more, it's kind of a generational gap. So we've got some of our younger workers who are on social media, who have smartphones. And what's really interesting is that what I've been hearing from the folks at the United Food and Commercial Workers, that the Walmart associates who are building Our Walmart, which is an organization of Walmart workers fighting for change. They've been following the strike, they've been following the march, and that's really exploded. And so those workers who in the stores, who tend to, you know, be a little bit more media savvy or a little bit more likely to have that kind of technology, have really jumped on it, and they've been watching this really closely. And so I think, you know, what I didn't mention earlier was that a couple days after these guys went out on strike, a Walmart warehouse in Chicago, outside of Chicago, also a group of workers went on strike. Temp workers in a Schneider Walmart contracted facility, 100% Walmart. So it's you know, those kinds of things where something happens, and you know, they can see directly. They don't have to use the media to filter it and tell them what happened, but they actually look at, you know, and can actually connect with individuals who are on strike and talk to them and see that's really happening. Those kinds of things. It's nascent. It's just getting started, but we've had some good little experiences with that in the last couple of weeks.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah. kind of building on the other questions about different strategies that you all are using, we've heard about legal strategy, social media, organizing. From the public policies perspective, I know with the work that we do in Sacramento, Cal Labor Fed, SEIU, they always have a whole platform every year that they're pushing forward. And of course, we heard from the domestic workers this morning about the work they're doing. In terms of the work that you all are doing, is there a piece that you're either doing around state or local policy right now, or that you're considering for the near future?
So for us, there's a car wash worker law, and I think really in the industry, I always, when I'm doing workshops around our campaign, I really start from there, because unlike many industries, the car wash worker law, even though it's not enforced fully, and we have to push that it is enforced, it has a good platform for workers in comparison to other industries. And so at least we have that. I think strategically, we've been looking in terms of policy more at, one of the challenges we face a lot is, how do we make the owners individually liable for what they're doing, right? And I think many industries see that when you file a wage claim, when you file, when there is wage theft happening, and the workers don't even know the name of the owner, or the workers haven't been able to track who is really employing them. They think the manager's the owner. That it's hard sometimes to really enforce the law when you don't really know who you're going after. And so we use many different things to find out. But one, through the policy lens, something we've been seriously looking at, along with many other of our community allies that are also here, the Wage Justice Center and Kiwa and other people. Last year, we tried to push a car wash worker wage lien bill that would allow workers to file pre-judgment liens on the property where they do work, as a good pressure point for many things, not just the wage theft and recuperating their wages, but also as a pressure point for the employer to talk to the workers and talk to us. And now we're looking, and it was a big fight. We learned a lot, and now we're thinking of, what about if we do it together? What about if we have the warehouse workers? What about if it's car wash workers and we have, garment workers? What about we do a multi-industry wage lien bill and push that? And janitors, there's such specific industries where it would be so useful because they're working in a specific property location. So we're playing with that idea, and we are seriously learning more about that.
Can I answer that too? So what we're looking at, this bill we're looking at right now is, relatively targeted and focused. What we were thinking about is, in Illinois, there's a Day in Temporary Labor Services Act, and that is a law that passed a couple of years ago and is really focused on, bringing together complete and strong joint liability against multiple employers, multiple layers of employers, and it's really, kind of like it's like a private attorney general kind of thing, where a company, a lawyer or a legal aid group can go after individual companies. And so we're kind of watching that and looking at that as a possible model. I know something passed in Massachusetts that I was just trying to read up on, but I couldn't do it in time. But it just passed. It looks like it's something similar that MassCosh and some other groups have done. I don't know if anyone else knows more about that, but that's the kind of thing that we think, similarly we can get a coalition of folks, including labor, including the unions themselves, to really look at, because a lot of unions, you look at the recycling workers, the Teamsters are trying to organize, other food processing workers are starting to see this staffing agency stuff happen.
Dolores, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of ways that we tried to handle the whole thing about the outsourcing, the labor contractor issue in the Farm Workers Union. Back in the day, I think some of the laws are still there. One of them is that we did pass a law for the state of California that any worker could ask the labor contractor who the employer is, In fact, and they were actually supposed to post this, like they have their vans or whatever. It's supposed to be posted on the van or the bus who the actual employer is. Now, the issue is always trying to, having the workers have enough self-confidence or to go ahead and ask the labor contractor who the employer is. But by law, that is a law that we passed way back in the day. Okay, it's probably been there about 20 years already. The other thing that we did is that when we had the power, when we had the boycott, and thank all of you guys supported that boycott, is that we actually made the employers hire the workers directly. So literally we were able to get rid of all of the labor contractors when we signed those first GRAPE contracts. Now that is not the situation today. Labor contractors are back in force. But I think that one of the demands that one can make, if you do have the power, and when you get into those negotiations with the employers, it's to say that they have to hire the workers directly. And I think that ultimately that would be the solution to make the employers responsible, for whatever happens to workers. And when I say that, I know that's hard. I know that's a very hard thing. But if that kind of power can be amassed, as say it was back then, back in the 70s when we got the growers because of the Great Boycott to sit downside contract, we said no labor contractors. And we just wiped out all the labor contractors almost overnight. And we made them foremen. If you wanted to work, okay, you can be a foreman, you can be a supervisor, but you can't contract workers. Now, I know that when I say that, I know that that is not the situation in today's world. And in fact, we know that the outsourcing and the labor contracting industry has gotten even bigger than what it was back in the 70s and the 80s. But I think that ultimately that's what we have to shoot for. And then, of course, the other thing is to continue to pass these laws that say under the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, by the way, and that whatever happens with a labor contractor when they're trying to organize, the employer is responsible. And that is one of the great things that we have under the Agricultural Labor Relations Law. And I'm sure that Give can bring, I'm not with the union anymore. I left the union in 2002. But Give could probably give updates about what the situation is in today's role.
Okay. We have one more. Yeah, an update, and then we got one more question.
Yeah, Give, I was going to mention that. The bill that applies to temporary workers that the Labor Federation is doing, AB 1744, would also require the disclosure of that kind of information about temporary employers. It's on the governor's desk, waiting his signature, strongly endorsed by Labor Commissioner Julie Su.
Final question for Bruce.
Hi, I'm Bruce Goldstein with Farm Worker Justice in Washington, D.C. And on this issue of wage theft and outsourcing and holding the major economic powers kind of in the food chain responsible, I just wanted to point out a recent development. Since the transition team of the Obama administration, a lot of us farm worker advocates were pressing them to use the hot goods injunction. And for those who don't know, what that means is the U.S. Department of Labor, when there's a minimum wage or overtime or child labor violation, they're allowed to go to federal court and say to the court, please enter an order against this defendant and stop the defendant from shipping or selling these goods that were produced in violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And they can bring that lawsuit against any defendant in the food chain, not just agriculture, I mean, in the stream of commerce, a retailer, a shipper, or the producer, the manufacturer, or any other intermediary. And so recently, the Secretary Solis, to her credit, has started to, said she's going to use that tool, and it's a very, very powerful tool, because what happens is a retailer or a shipper says to the grower who ripped off the workers, hey, I need my produce. I'm never going to do business with you again if you can't ship me my produce. Pay the workers off and let's get done with this. So it's a very powerful tool. And so a few weeks ago, the U.S. Department of Labor in Oregon used it and said to, these businesses, you ripped off the workers to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars in minimum wage violations. We're going to go to court and seek a hot goods injunction if you don't settle. And so the company settled and paid tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And now they are on a media campaign saying that this is an unconstitutional law, especially when applied to a product that is perishable. And so they've gotten a lot of media about it. So we're working with PayCoon, Oregon's Farm Worker Union, and NELP, and other advocates in Oregon to set the record straight, about what the growers are saying. But our concern is that it is a really powerful tool, and this will turn into a national campaign by employers to try to back off the Department of Labor from using the hot goods injunction, which we think is a very powerful tool to make the whole vertical stream of commerce responsible for what's happening to the people at the bottom.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. So we're back on schedule, but I want to thank all the great panelists again. Let's give them.